The massive Craxian vessel emerged from hyperspace with none of its usual grace, its silver hull reflecting Earth's sunlight in erratic patterns. Inside the command center, Senior Ambassador Hela gripped her control panel, her elongated fingers trembling as she struggled to maintain the ship's stability without her psychic abilities. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying none of the traditional telepathic undertones that once made her species so formidable. The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, their movements betraying their unfamiliarity with manual controls. "Earth's defensive systems are tracking us," Ambassador reported First Officer Nexel, his crystalline eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Their primitive scanners are analyzing our vessel. They have not yet raised their defensive shields." Tila allowed herself a moment of bitter reflection. Just 3 stellar cycles ago, such primitive scanning would have been beneath their notice. The Craxian Empire had dismissed Earth as an unremarkable world populated by beings too technologically limited to be worth their attention. Now those same beings represented their last hope for survival. The ship's emergency stabilizers engaged as they descended into a standard orbit. Below them, Earth's blue-green surface sprawled in stark contrast to the crystal worlds they once called home. Communications Officer Lyra worked methodically at her station, her movements deliberate and careful without the psychic enhancement they once relied upon. "Ambassador," Lyra called out, "we're receiving transmissions from multiple Earth facilities. They're requesting identification and purpose." Her voice carried a note of uncertainty that would have been unthinkable in the old empire. Tela straightened her ceremonial robes, a gesture that once would have been accompanied by an impressive display of psychic energy. "Open a channel. Visual only." She couldn't risk them detecting the weakness in their psychic signature. The main screen illuminated with the image of a human command center. A composed human female in a formal uniform stood at the center, flanked by military and scientific advisors. The sight of such physically present advisors, rather than psychically linked consultants, still struck Tila as remarkably inefficient. "This is Earth Defense Command. I am Director Chen. Your vessel has entered restricted space. Identify yourself and state your purpose." The human's voice carried authority despite lacking any psychic reinforcement. Hela began her carefully prepared speech. "I am Senior Ambassador Tila of the..." She hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Stellar Concordat. We come seeking diplomatic dialogue with Earth's leadership." An alert flashed across Nexel's console. "Ambassador," he whispered, "3 vessels are approaching from the lunar base. Their weapon systems are active, but not locked." Tila maintained her diplomatic pose while assessing their options. Without their psychic abilities, they couldn't simply disappear into subspace as they once could. Their advanced technology still functioned, but operating it through manual controls was painfully slow and imprecise. Director Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. "We have no record of a stellar concordat in our diplomatic database. However, we are detecting some interesting energy signatures from your vessel. They seem familiar." Tila felt a chill run through her spine. The humans had encountered Craxian technology before, though only through scattered remnants and abandoned outposts. Their species had dismissed human intelligence gathering as inconsequential. Another mistake to add to their growing list. "We represent a newly formed alliance," Tila improvised, watching the human vessels take up escort positions around their ship. "Our purpose here is peaceful. We seek..." She paused, the words feeling like gravity stones in her throat. "We seek Earth's assistance." The bridge crew tensed. None of them had ever imagined they would speak these words to a species they had once considered unworthy of contact. But their situation had become desperate. After being turned away from every advanced world in the galaxy, worlds that remembered all too well how the Craxians had treated them, they had no choice but to turn to the one civilization they had never conquered or oppressed. Director Chen's expression remained neutral, but her next words carried a weight that made Tihela's hearts skip a beat. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. Perhaps you'd care to explain why your ship's energy signature matches perfectly with artifacts we recovered from the Centauri incident. The game of deception was already unraveling, and they hadn't even landed yet. The United Earth Council chamber buzzed with quiet tension as Tehila and her small delegation stood before the assembled representatives. The Grand Hall's marble columns and high windows created an atmosphere of understated power, so different from the psychic displays of dominance the Craxians once preferred. "Your story is compelling, Ambassador," Council President Marcus Reeves stated, his dark eyes studying the alien visitors. "A peaceful stellar confederation seeking Earth's scientific expertise, yet you've provided remarkably few details about your civilization." Tehila maintained her practiced composure, though her secondary heart raced. "Our culture values privacy in diplomatic matters. We prefer to build trust gradually." The words felt hollow even as she spoke them. In the observation gallery above, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the proceedings with her young research assistant, Maya Sullivan. The 12-year-old prodigy had been instrumental in analyzing the visitors' technology, showing an uncanny intuition about their systems that even the aliens seemed to notice. Maya tugged at Dr. Chen's sleeve, her face scrunched in concentration. "Dr. Chen, something feels wrong. It's like they're empty somehow." Before Chen could respond, Maya's eyes widened. She clutched her head and stumbled backward, overwhelmed by a sudden sensation. "They're hurting. Not physically, but inside. Like they're missing something important." The commotion drew Tehila's attention. Her crystalline eyes locked onto Maya, and for a moment, genuine fear flashed across her alien features. First Officer Nexel moved closer to Tehila, whispering urgently in their native tongue. President Reeves noticed the exchange. "Is everything all right? Ambassador, you seem concerned about our young observer." Tehil's response came too quickly. "The child appears unwell. Perhaps she should be removed for her own comfort." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her scientific curiosity piqued. Maya has always been sensitive to others' emotional states. In fact, her abilities have recently helped us understand several artifacts we recovered from our outer colonies, particularly those from the Centauri system. The chamber grew silent. Tehil's delegation shifted uncomfortably, their perfectly maintained facade beginning to crack. Council Security Chief Raman stepped forward, activating a holographic display. "These artifacts," Raman began, "emit energy signatures identical to your vessel's core systems. They also contain historical records that paint a very different picture of galactic civilization than the one you've presented." Tehil's daughter, Sai, moved forward impulsively. "Mother, we cannot continue this." She fell silent at Tehila's sharp gesture, but the damage was done. President Reeves leaned forward. "Perhaps, Ambassador, you'd like to explain why these artifacts describe a vast empire ruled by beings who wielded immense psychic powers. An empire that deemed humanity too primitive for contact." The chamber's atmosphere grew heavy with accusation. Tehila stood frozen, her carefully constructed deception crumbling. But it was Maya who broke the tension, walking down to the council floor despite Dr. Chen's attempt to stop her. "You can't do it anymore, can you?" Maya asked, her voice filled with curiosity rather than judgment. "The special things you used to do with your minds. That's why you feel empty." Tehil's composure finally broke. Her shoulders sagged as the weight of pretense fell away. "How can one so young perceive so much?" she whispered. "Because she possesses what you once took for granted," Dr. Chen said, following her young assistant. "Natural empathic ability. Something humanity has been slowly developing over generations." President Reeves raised his hand for silence as murmurs filled the chamber. "Ambassador Tehila, I believe it's time for the truth. You are the Craxians, aren't you? The species that once ruled half the galaxy through psychic dominance." Tehila looked at her daughter, then back at the assembled humans. In that moment, she made a choice that would reshape the galaxy's future. "Yes," she admitted, her voice carrying the weight of her fallen empire. "We are the Craxians, And we come to Earth not as conquerors or equals, but as supplicants. Our power is gone. Our former subjects hunt us. And you whom we once dismissed as primitive, are our last hope for survival." The council chamber erupted in shocked discussions as humanity faced its first real choice as an emerging galactic power, whether to help those who had once deemed them unworthy of notice. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the genetic analysis floating in her holographic display, her eyes widening as the implications became clear. The Craxian DNA structure was undergoing a rapid transformation, breaking down and rebuilding itself in patterns she had never seen before. "The psychic centers of their brains are literally dissolving," she explained to the assembled research team. "But look at these neural pathways. They're not dying. They're changing." Across the laboratory, young Maya worked with Psi, the Craxian ambassador's daughter. The two had formed an unexpected connection, with Maya's natural empathy helping bridge the communication gap between their species. "It feels different now when I'm near you," Maya said, sketching a diagram of what she sensed, like scattered light coming back together, but in a new pattern. Psi traced her elongated fingers over Maya's drawing. "That's exactly how it feels. Before, our thoughts reached out like sunbeams. Now they're turning inward, becoming something else." She paused, struggling with the manual controls of a human computer terminal. "It's frustrating, having to use physical interfaces for everything." Dr. Chen watched their interaction with growing interest. "Your species relied on psychic abilities for nearly everything, didn't you? Technology, communication, navigation. We thought it made us superior," Psi admitted, her crystalline eyes reflecting the laboratory lights. "Our greatest scientists never bothered to develop alternative methods. Why press buttons when you could simply will something to happen?" The laboratory door slid open as Tihila entered, accompanied by Dr. Marcus Wong, the project's senior geneticist. The Craxian ambassador had abandoned her formal robes for practical Earth clothing, another sign of their adapting circumstances. "Show them what we found," Dr. Wong said, his excitement barely contained. Dr. Chen activated the main holographic display, highlighting specific sections of the Craxian genome. "The changes aren't random. Your DNA is responding to something in Earth's environment. More specifically, it's responding to human proximity." Hela stepped closer to the display. "Explain." "Human beings have latent psychic potential," Dr. Chen continued. "It's minimal compared to your former abilities, but it's evolving. Maya's sensitivity is an example of where we might be heading naturally over thousands of generations." "But that's not the fascinating part," Dr. Wong interjected. "The Craxian genetic structure appears to be attempting to synchronize with human neural patterns. It's like your biology is trying to rebuild itself using our blueprint." Psi suddenly straightened. "I felt something. Just now, when Maya was thinking about the diagram. It wasn't like our old abilities, but," she struggled to find the words. Maya finished her thought. "It was like a whisper instead of a shout. Subtle, but clearer somehow." The scientists exchanged meaningful looks. Dr. Chen pulled up another set of scans. "Your new neural pathways are beginning to mirror human empathic centers, but with your species' greater neural density. Theoretically, this could lead to a completely new form of psychic ability." Tila breathed, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Not the overwhelming power we once wielded, but something more collaborative." Dr. Wong nodded enthusiastically. "If we can stabilize the transformation, your people might develop abilities that work in harmony with human consciousness rather than dominating it." The laboratory fell quiet as the implications sank in. The Craxians had lost their ability to impose their will on the galaxy, but they might gain something entirely new, a shared connection with the very species they had once dismissed. "There's more," Dr. Chen added, her voice serious. "The changes are accelerating. Without proper guidance, the transformation could become dangerous. We need to establish a dedicated research facility, somewhere your people can be monitored and supported through this evolution." Hela looked at her daughter, working side by side with a human child, then back at the genetic display showing the future of her species. Once, we would have considered this adaptation a form of defeat. Now, she paused, watching Maya help Sai understand a simple human gesture of friendship, a smile. Now, perhaps we are finally learning what real power looks like. The genetic transformation of the mighty Craxians had begun, and with it, the possibility of a future neither species had imagined. The prototype spacecraft hung suspended in the massive construction bay of the Luna space station, its sleek hull combining the organic curves of Craxian design with the practical efficiency of human engineering. Chief Engineer David Park stood beside Tehila, both watching as crews made final adjustments to the experimental vessel. "The neural interface is ready for testing," Park announced, checking his tablet, "though it's nothing like your original control systems." Tehila nodded, her crystalline eyes reflecting the ship's metallic surface. "Our old vessels required no physical controls at all. The pilot simply merged consciousness with the ship itself." She flexed her fingers, still adjusting to the tactile demands of human technology. "But perhaps this new approach will prove enlightening." In the ship's primary control room, Sai sat at the helm, with Maya perched excitedly in the observer's seat behind her. Dr. Chen monitored their vital signs from a nearby console while the integration team ran through pre-flight checks. "Remember," Dr. Chen instructed, "this isn't about forcing your will onto the ship. Think of it as a conversation. The neural interface translates your intentions into commands, but you still need to understand the physical processes." Sai placed her hands on the control surfaces, feeling the subtle buzz of the interface connecting with her transformed neural pathways. "It's different," she murmured. "Before, ships were like extensions of our bodies. This feels more like learning to dance with a partner." Maya closed her eyes, her enhanced empathic abilities letting her sense Sai's experience. "The ship is responding to you. Not like the old way, but it's there." Through the observation window, Park watched as the prototype's engines began to glow. "Remarkable," he said to Tehila. "Your people are adapting faster than anyone expected. 6 months ago, none of you could even operate a simple Earth computer." "Necessity is a harsh but effective teacher," Tehila replied. "Though your species' guidance has made the transition less painful than it might have been." The prototype's engines pulsed brighter as Sai grew more confident with the controls. Dr. Chen's monitors showed increasing synchronization between the Craxian pilot and the hybrid systems. Then, something unexpected happened. Maya suddenly sat up straight. "The harmonics. They're just like in the laboratory." Dr. Chen quickly checked her readings. The neural interface was generating patterns similar to those observed during their breakthrough genetic research. The ship's systems were responding to Sai's commands with increasing efficiency, as if the technology itself was learning from the pilot's transformed consciousness. "Full power to maneuvering thrusters," Sai called out, her voice steady with newfound confidence. The prototype responded smoothly, executing a perfect series of test maneuvers within the construction bay. Park whistled appreciatively. "She's already outperforming our best human pilots." The neural interface seems to be adapting to her thought patterns. "Not just adapting," Tehila observed. "Look at the energy efficiency readings." The monitors showed the hybrid systems operating at levels exceeding both traditional human technology and old Craxian designs. The merger of both species approaches was creating something entirely new. Suddenly, alert signals flashed across the command center screens. A massive vessel had just emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter's orbit. Its design was unmistakably that of the Centauri Collective, one of the Craxians' former subject species. "They found us," Tehila whispered, her secondary heart racing. "How did they track us this far?" Park was already coordinating with Earth's defense systems. "The prototype isn't ready for combat. We need to get your daughter out of there." But in the control room, Sai remained calm. "No," she said firmly. "I can feel how this ship wants to move." "Maya, are you sensing it too?" The young human nodded enthusiastically. "It's like the ship is trying to show you what it can do." Dr. Chen looked between her monitors and the approaching threat. The neural interface is showing unprecedented levels of integration. Psi might actually be able to. Let her try, Teela interrupted, her voice carrying the weight of command she had almost forgotten. My daughter is no longer just a Craxian pilot. She represents what our species can become. As the Centauri vessel approached, the prototype ship hummed with potential, ready to demonstrate what humanity and Craxians could achieve together. The true test of their collaboration was about to begin. The United Earth Defense Command Center buzzed with controlled tension as the Centauri battle fleet materialized at the edge of the solar system. 12 massive warships, their crystalline hulls gleaming with stored energy, dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect attack formation. Director Chen stood at the command platform, studying the tactical display. They're not even trying to hide their intentions. This is a show of force. Teela watched the approaching fleet, her expression grim. The Centauri were among our most advanced subjects. They learned much from their centuries under Craxian rule, perhaps too much. Incoming transmission, announced Communications Officer Rodriguez. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The main screen flickered to life, revealing Supreme Commander Vex of the Centauri Collective. His crystalline features, similar yet distinct from Craxian physiology, radiated cold authority. This is your first and final warning, Earth. Surrender the Craxian refugees, or we will demonstrate exactly what their former technology can do in truly capable hands. Dr. Sarah Chen entered the command center with Maya at her side, both summoned for their unique insights. The young empath immediately tensed. They're so angry, she whispered. But there's something else. They're afraid too. Afraid. Teela turned to Maya, her crystalline eyes reflecting the emergency lights. What could they possibly fear from us now? Before Maya could answer, the tactical display erupted with new alerts. The Centauri fleet had launched their first wave of attack drones, hundreds of crystalline spheres accelerating toward Earth's orbital defenses. All stations, battle positions, Director Chen ordered. Activate the hybrid shield network. Throughout the solar system, previously hidden installations hummed to life. The combined work of human innovation and Craxian knowledge created a defensive web that no single species could have developed alone. As the attack drones approached, they encountered something entirely unexpected. Shield harmonics are stable, reported Defense Chief Raman. The new quantum matrices are responding exactly as Dr. Chen predicted. The first wave of drones crashed against Earth's defensive screen. Instead of the expected explosions, the crystalline spheres simply dissolve, their energy absorbed and redistributed through the hybrid network. Supreme Commander Vex's image returned to the screen, his confidence visibly shaken. Impossible. Those shields, they're using principles we never. He caught himself, rage replacing surprise. You've weaponized their technology against us. No, Director Chen replied calmly. We worked with them to create something new, something neither of our species could achieve alone. In the prototype ship, now designated Harmony, Psi and her human co-pilot Thomas Reed maintained their patrol position near Luna. The vessel's hybrid systems sang with potential, ready to demonstrate the true power of cooperation. The Centauri fleet began to advance, charging their main weapons. You don't understand what they are, Vex snarled. What they did to us, to countless species, they don't deserve salvation. Maya stepped forward, her young voice carrying surprising authority. But they're changing. Can't you feel it? They're not the same beings who hurt you. Teela moved to stand beside the human child. She speaks truth, Commander Vex. We lost our power, but we found something greater, understanding. The humans didn't simply shelter us. They helped us evolve. Pretty words from a fallen tyrant. Vex sneered, but there was uncertainty in his tone. The Centauri weapons reached full charge, their crystalline hulls pulsing with deadly energy. Let's see how your evolution survives this. The Centauri fleet fired as one, releasing beams of concentrated energy that would have annihilated the old Earth defenses. But as the attack struck the hybrid shield network, something remarkable happened. The energy didn't just disperse, it transformed. Dr. Chen's monitors exploded with data. The shield harmonics are perfectly synchronized with their weapon frequency. It's not just blocking the attack, it's converting it. Tehila finished, wonder in her voice. Just as we learned to convert our loss into growth. The Centauri weapons fire rippled through Earth's defensive web, emerging as pure, usable energy. Their greatest attack had just become Earth's greatest power source. Supreme Commander Vex stared in disbelief as his fleet's combined firepower accomplished nothing except strengthening Earth's defenses. The impossible truth became clear. The Craxians hadn't just found shelter on Earth. They had found redemption. The United Earth Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every human nation stood shoulder to shoulder with Craxian refugees as Supreme Commander Vex's ultimatum echoed through the hall. Surrender the Craxians within 24 hours, or face the full might of the Centauri fleet. Council President Reeves rose from his seat, his voice clear and resolute. We have heard the demands of the Centauri Collective. Now we must decide. Do we bow to threats, or stand by those who have become part of our community? Dr. Chen stepped forward, Maya and Sai at her side. The hybrid defense network exceeded all expectations during their initial attack. But more importantly, we've made another breakthrough. She gestured to the young human Craxian pair. Show them. Maya and Sai joined hands, their eyes closing in concentration. The air around them seemed to shimmer, and suddenly, every person in the chamber felt a wave of gentle warmth. A shadow of the old Craxian power, but somehow more inclusive, more natural. The transformation we observed in their genetic structure, Dr. Chen explained. It's not just changing them. It's creating a bridge between our species, a new form of communication that works with us, not over us. Hila moved to stand beside her daughter. We once ruled through dominance, but these children show us a different path, one of harmony and shared strength. The chamber's main display activated, showing the Centauri fleet's new attack formation. Defense Chief Raman took the floor. They're positioning for a full orbital assault. But thanks to the data we gathered from their first attack, we've enhanced our defensive capabilities even further. More than that, Chief Engineer Park added, bringing up schematics of the prototype ship Harmony. We've replicated the neural interface technology across our entire defense fleet, human and Craxian pilots working in perfect synchronization. President Reeves surveyed the chamber. The vote is called. All in favor of standing with the Craxians. Make your choice now. The chamber's voting system hummed to life. Across the vast hall, lights began to glow. Not the traditional green or red of yes and no, but a brilliant blue that seemed to pulse with shared purpose. The vote was unanimous. Transmit our response to the Centauri fleet, Reeves commanded. On the massive Centauri flagship, Supreme Commander Vex received Earth's message. His crystalline features hardened as he read. The people of Earth have chosen to stand with their Craxian allies. We invite diplomatic dialogue, but we will not surrender those who have sought our help. Launch the second wave, Vex ordered, his voice cold with fury. Show them the price of defiance. But Earth was ready. As the Centauri attack force approached, a new line of defense emerged from behind Luna. 20 ships, each powered by hybrid technology and piloted by human Craxian teams, moved into formation. At their head flew Harmony, with Sai and Thomas Reed at the controls. All ships engage neural interfaces, Reed commanded. Remember your training. Don't force control. Work with your vessels, just like we practiced. The Centauri weapons blazed across space, but this time, Earth's defense was more than passive. The hybrid ships danced through the barrage, their movements fluid and unpredictable. Each blast absorbed by the shield network only made it stronger. In the council chamber, Maya suddenly grabbed Dr. Chen's hand. They're beginning to understand. The Centauri, they can feel the difference. Tila's eyes widened as she realized the truth. The new Craxian abilities weren't just about control or power. They were about connection, about bridging gaps between species. Even now, that gentle influence was reaching across space, touching the minds of their former subjects. "Commander Vex," she broadcast, her voice carrying that same new harmony. "Look at what we have become. Not conquerors, not rulers, but partners. This is what real strength looks like." The Centauri fleet's attack faltered as doubt spread through their ranks. They had come expecting to find their former oppressors weakened and hiding. Instead, they found something unprecedented. Two species working as one, their combined potential greater than anything the galaxy had seen before. The tide wasn't just turning, it was transforming into something entirely new. The research facility beneath Mount Zephyr hummed with activity as Dr. Chen reviewed the latest genetic scans. 3 months had passed since the Centauri confrontation, and the changes in the Craxian population had accelerated beyond all predictions. "Their neural pathways have completely restructured," she explained to the assembled team. "The transformation is stable, and more importantly, it's spreading." Maya sat cross-legged on the observation deck, her eyes closed in concentration. Around her, small objects, pens, papers, even coffee cups, floated gently in the air. Sai stood nearby, guiding her friend's developing abilities with the patience of a natural teacher. The human genetic potential was always there, Teal observed, watching the display. We were simply too blind to see it, too convinced of our own superiority. Dr. Wong rushed into the laboratory, his tablet displaying new data streams. "You need to see this. The harmonic resonance we detected during the Centauri encounter. It's repeating, but now it's coming from multiple sources across the solar system." The main screen lit up with a map of human colonies and outposts. Dozens of points pulsed with synchronized energy signatures, places where humans and Craxians worked closely together. "It's like a network," Maya said, letting the floating objects settle gently back into place. "But not like the old Craxian control systems. This feels alive, growing." In the adjacent testing chamber, Thomas Reed and a Craxian navigator named Kex were demonstrating the latest advancement in faster-than-light travel. Their hybrid ship simulation pulsed with new energy patterns, defying traditional physics. The old methods required immense psychic power to tear through space, Kex explained, his hands moving smoothly over the neural interface. "But this is more like asking space to cooperate with us." Reed nodded, monitoring the energy flows. "Instead of forcing our way through, we're finding natural pathways." The combined insight of both our species revealed what was always there, waiting to be discovered. Dr. Chen's computer chimed with an urgent alert. New data poured in from deep space monitoring stations. "The quantum field distortions we detected near the outer colonies, they're not random. Look at this pattern." The display showed waves of energy rippling through space, creating corridors of altered physics. Hila studied the readings, her crystalline eyes reflecting the shifting patterns. "These are similar to the paths we once used for instantaneous travel," she whispered. "But they're more stable, more natural." Maya closed her eyes again, reaching out with her enhanced senses. "It's like the universe is showing us the right way to move through it. No more breaking through, just flowing along the currents that were always there." In the station's communication center, messages arrived from human colonies throughout the solar system. More children like Maya were discovering abilities that bridged the gap between human intuition and Craxian precision. Adults working closely with Craxian partners reported increasing sensitivity to these new harmonics. "We're not just changing them," Dr. Wong realized, reviewing the data. "They're changing us. Both species are moving towards something new." Hila placed her hand on a neural interface panel, feeling the subtle resonance. Perhaps this was inevitable. Perhaps the loss of our power wasn't a punishment, but an opportunity. A chance to learn what real evolution means. The laboratory sensors suddenly registered a massive energy spike. In the testing chamber, Reed and Kex's simulation had created something unprecedented, a stable gateway through space-time that required minimal energy to maintain. "It's beautiful," Psi breathed, watching the swirling portal of light. "Like the universe is finally welcoming us as equals, not invaders." Dr. Chen brought up the latest genetic projections. According to these models, the changes will continue, not just in isolated individuals, but across both populations. We're witnessing the birth of something entirely new. Maya took Psi's hand, and together they reached out toward the gateway. The energy patterns responded to their combined influence, shifting and stabilizing into an even more efficient configuration. "The future," Tihila said softly, watching the two young friends shape reality itself with their unified potential, "belongs to neither humans nor Craxians alone. It belongs to what we are becoming together." Throughout the solar system, the new harmonic network continued to grow, marking the next step in both species evolution, not a revolution of conquest, but a symphony of shared transformation. The observation deck of Earth's first deep space diplomatic station hung like a jewel against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. 5 years had passed since the Craxian transformation began, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Ambassador Hela stood before the gathered representatives of 20 different species, her crystalline eyes reflecting the light of distant nebulae. The former subjects of the Craxian Empire now sat as equals at the Grand Council table, their past animosities transformed by the evidence of genuine change. "The gateway network is now complete," she announced, gesturing to the holographic display showing interconnected points of light, stretching across known space. "Thanks to the combined efforts of all our peoples, we have created something unprecedented, a transportation system that works in harmony with the universe itself." Dr. Sarah Chen, now Earth's chief of Sino-Scientific Relations, brought up detailed scans of the network. "The quantum harmonics are self-sustaining. Each gateway strengthens the others, creating a stable web of interconnected routes that any species can use." Supreme Commander Vex, who had become one of the strongest advocates for cooperation after witnessing the transformation of his former oppressors, leaned forward with interest. "And you say these pathways are actually accelerating the spread of the harmonic evolution?" "Indeed," Maya responded. Now 17, she had grown into her role as humanity's premier expert on the new psychic sciences. "The network doesn't just transport ships. It carries the resonance that's changing all of us. Different for each species, but always in harmony with the others." Psi, standing at her friend's side, demonstrated by reaching out to the gathered representatives. Each felt a gentle touch of awareness, unique to their species' neural structure, but somehow perfectly compatible with all the others. "We thought we had lost everything," Tihila said, watching the interaction. "Instead, we found a way to share something greater with the entire galaxy." The station's sensors suddenly lit up with activity. The prototype vessel Harmony, now commanded by Captain Thomas Reed, emerged from the nearest gateway. Its hybrid systems had evolved far beyond the original design, incorporating innovations from a dozen different species. "The outer expedition returns," announced Chief Engineer Park, his silver hair testament to the years of development. "They've mapped 3 new gateway points in unexplored space." The council chamber's main screen activated, showing Reed's report. "The harmonic signatures are getting stronger," he explained. "It's as if the galaxy itself is responding to our new approach. We're finding pathways that no single species could have discovered alone." Dr. Chen studied the data with growing excitement. "These readings, they suggest the presence of naturally occurring gateways. The universe has its own network. We just needed to learn how to see it." Young students from various species gathered in the observation dome above, their enhanced senses allowing them to perceive the quantum harmonics directly. Among them, the children of former enemies played and learned together, their natural abilities far surpassing those of their parents. "The next generation will know a very different galaxy," Teal observed, watching them. "One where power comes from cooperation, not control." Maya smiled, feeling the complex web of connections flowing through the station. It's already happening. Every species brings something unique to the harmony. The Centaur's crystal technology, Earth's adaptability, the Craxian understanding of psychic principles. They're all becoming part of something greater. The council chamber filled with representatives of worlds that had once lived in fear of Craxian dominance. Now they came together willingly, each contributing to the growing network of shared knowledge and capability. "We stand at a new threshold," Tehila announced to the assembly. "The outer reaches of space call to us not as conquerors or subjects, but as explorers in harmony with the universe itself. Who will join us in the next great journey?" The response was unanimous. Species that had once fought bitter wars now prepared to venture into the unknown together. The great ships of the combined fleet assembled outside the station, their designs as varied as their crews, but all humming with the same harmonic energy. As the first joint expedition prepared to depart, Maya and Sai stood at the gateway controls, their combined abilities helping to chart the course into unexplored space. The galaxy spread out before them, not as a realm to be conquered, but as a vast wonder to be explored by all species working as one. The age of dominance was over. The symphony of shared discovery had begun.